Good morning and welcome to Tuesday, the 10th of August 2021. Hey, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this edition of the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Fifolu Falodun and I thank you for being there with us this morning. To everyone joining us for the first time, we are glad and excited to have you with us. We welcome you and say, spread the news. If someone told you, do somebody some good also and tell them about the show. And if you came across it somewhere online, we are glad that you did. Kindly share the link and let your friends also know. The Good Morning Education Show is that education analysis and discussion show where we have discussions around topics that have to do with education. Sometimes we have some special series that take us away from core education, but at the base of all of that, we still come back to our core mandate, which is education. The show is divided into three segments. We have the headlines from the news from the dailies, then we have the grant for the day, and then we go into our topic of the day. For the topic of the day and for the headlines, we have our analysts come in, chime in, share with us from the wealth of experience and their wealth of expertise to analyze headlines and also to have a robust discussion on our topics. Today will not be an exception. We would have our analysts joining us very soon. And yes, this morning we would like to implore that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our posts on Facebook, and yes, we are on Instagram. In case you didn't know, we are on Instagram as the Good Morning Education Show. Welcome once again to this morning's show. And just as we are about to kick off with the headlines, we are joined by one of our analysts, Wythera. Good morning,
Hi,
Wythera.
good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing this morning?
Good, good, good. Great to be back.
Great. It's great to have you back. Your volume is just a little low, though.
Okay, let me see how I can fix that.
Okay. So we'll delve right into the headlines for the day this morning. And our first headline: Kaduna schools to remain short until security improves. The Kaduna State government says that all primary and secondary schools will remain closed until security situation improves across the state. Um, Insecurity is a big issue, is one we speak about all the time, is one we keep hoping that on the larger scale and on the federal scale that something is done to attack this very soon. And even at the state level, if students have to be kept out of school, they haven't even resumed for their third term. And there's still no hope in sight of when resumption will be. This is not good enough. We're hoping that the government can find a lasting solution to insecurity and let our children let them go back to school. Not just go back to school, but go back to school safely, not being led to school by military men. This we cannot overstate it. The next headline says NYSC laments insufficient hostel in Ondo camp. The National Youth Service Corps in Ondo State has said it lacked adequate accommodation facilities for corps members on its permanent orientation camp located at Ikare Akoko, the headquarters of Akoko Northeast area of Ondo State. The state coordinator called on the two prominent monarchs in the town, to assist the Corps in this regard. One thing that I find interesting here is that the state coordinator is appealing to monarchs to speak with their subjects, to join hands with them, to uh, renovate, refurbish, and to make space for more core members. And for me, it's just really, is this something that that we should saddle the citizens with? The NYSC is a national scheme, which means it's a baby of the federal government, and that means the federal government is solely responsible for it. So when it comes to things like infrastructure, we should not be putting that on the host community and making it look like, oh, we're appealing to you to do this. And if they can't, if for any reason they're not able to do these things that you're asking of them, it doesn't mean that the community has failed. Rather, this appeal, I think, should be rerouted and directed straight to the federal government. If you know the infrastructure you have on ground, then don't send more people than that infrastructure can cater for to those places. And if those infrastructure, if what you have on ground is going to put people at risk because they're broken down or they're in some state of disrepair, then people's young Nigerians' lives should not be put at risk for this. It's essential that the NYSC state coordinator in Ondo State not just is not just making an emotional appeal here and maybe like, oh, they're helping us, they're helping us, our community, they're contributing to our growth and development. So this is something we can do to help them. Let's send the appeal to where it really should be going. Our next headline: special girls school students now in varsities. Oh, sorry. Okay, so we'll take the Grace Schools headline first. Grace Schools certified HP Innovation and Digital Education Ideas Schools. The HP idea, we had this about some months ago when Green Springs, when some teachers from Green Springs got their certification. Grace Schools in Bagada, Lagos, uh, has been certified by HP as an innovation and digital ideas school after over 130 Grace Schools educators became HP Idea Associates, with 8 educators as HP Idea Fellows. Congratulations to all of those educators. Congratulations to everyone who got their certification and who are fellows, who are associates, and we really look forward to seeing this replicated in other schools. We look forward to how this would spread across board for better education, for good quality education, for teaching without borders, for teaching outside of any confines, without a box at all. How this interprets and breaks down. So all of that, we look forward to it, and we're hoping that other schools are seeing this and getting on the train. Special girls school students now in varsities. Lagos government says Lagos government. The Lagos state government has said students from the Alternative High School for Girls, Agboju, are now studying in universities in Lagos and across the country. Special Advisor to Governor Sanwo-Olu on Education, Mr. Tokunbo Wahab, said this during a day sensitization and public enlightenment program on the need to re-enroll school dropouts, especially girl child, in school. Yeah, we have seen over time, and especially the last year and about a year and a half, how the rates of dropout of school dropouts have increased. Students who was basically struggling before with staying in school, COVID did not help matters at all, and many of them have not been able to find their way back to school. Many of them are struggling to to make room for the hybrid kind of education that we're having right now. And so for the alternative school for girls by set up by the Lagos state government, it's a great thing to see that they're proving that mainstream education is not the only way to go. So you can have some other forms of special schools that appeal or that take care or cater to the interests of these children in some other way and still get them to go to the university. I mean, the essay on education said some of them were studying law, some of them were in some other science related course of study in the Lagos State University in Lagos already. This is an appeal to parents. If your child has had to drop out of school for any reason, they can re-enroll, they can get back in school, they can get back on that wagon. The train hasn't left them. They can get back on it and still be all that they want to be academically. And if academics is not the way they want to go, that's also not a disadvantage for them. Just make sure that they are properly positioned to take advantage of what is available to them. Welcome back, Waithera. And our next headline: TASWED students to represent Nigeria in Netherlands. Yeah. 7 students of the Tai Solarin University of Education, Ijagun, Ogun State, have bagged national laurels after winning the 2021 edition of a national competition. The students were honored by the TASWED Enactors Club for the display of talents to use waste to develop everyday products, especially using plantain leaves to make menstrual pads. I'm excited about this particular news item. Using waste, one thing that I have heard and there's been a lot of conversation about is that menstrual pads should not be a luxury. It's a necessity. Every girl who has gone and every young woman, every female who has reached that point of their lives, except something happens, they can't stop. They have no control over the flow. And over time, menstrual pads are becoming much more expensive by the day. So for the students to have been able to make pads out of plantain leaves, it's highly commendable. I hope they are able to scale this up and that we have this, it's organic, it's friendly, it's eco-friendly, and I'm hoping we can have this scaled up and commercialized to the point that it's available and it's very affordable for many young women and especially schoolgirls out there. Waithera, would you like to say anything about this? Okay, I'm not sure if the network uh, is okay yet at Waithera's end. So we go on while we wait for her to rejoin us. WAEC reopens Calabar office after NSAS destruction. Candidly, I do not have a comment about this. I just say, welcome back. Welcome back to work. Get on the grind and let's see work being done. That's all I have for WAEC on this. And we have also with us in the studio here the chief hosts of the Good Morning Education Show, Mr. Rotimi Ataya. Good morning and welcome this morning.
Can you hear me? Good morning.
Yes, I can hear you now. Good morning.
Yes.
The next headline we're taking: Army Varsity warns against cultism and exam malpractices. To be honest, when I saw this headline, I laughed because I felt, who wants to die? Why would you go to an army university and then you want to toy with things that are considered antisocial and maybe a crime in some places? Or why would you even want to toy with exam malpractices, cultism, drug use in an army university where you're almost certain that if caught, it's I mean, anybody who is in any of these universities or in this particular university and is trying this probably has some wish or is trying to set some record, because no, being in some places just about sets the rule for you, just about makes it very clear that, look, this kind of behavior will not be tolerated here, and if you even venture into it, then you already know what the end of it is. Needless to say that the vice chancellor of the university has said that the institution has zero tolerance for occultic or examination malpractices and other nefarious activities. He said straight up, punitive measures await anyone caught testing the will of the school. They have heard though.
But you know that that's just the wish of mouth. You cannot look at it from that perspective. Even in heaven, there was a devil. So what's about the army right now? People even say that we have people in the army who have been corrupted and they are sabotaging the fight against terrorism. So, and if in the faith-based industry, if in churches and mosques we have corrupt clergy people, so why would an army varsity, you know? In fact, that's the biggest breeding place for cultism, because you are broken out of the normal civilian mode, and you are raised, in some cases you are raised to be non-emotional. You are raised to, so there are certain things that you are thinking, how can you look, some things don't scare some people who are exposed to certain environments. Do you understand? They have access to certain training, endurance tests, and all those things. So they are no more normal people, as you would call them. Permit me to use that word. So you're talking about, well, of course, like they said, if you get caught, and you know how it is. So the one who gets caught is the one who is the culprit, isn't it? What is cultism itself? It's an association and convergence of people. So once you have two or three more people in a place, be sure that there's a tendency for a cult to occur. Now, what kind of cult? Do you understand? And then, based on they themselves seeing things by themselves, there are some leaders who say, "Do as I say, but don't do as I do." In an army verse, do you know whether they have wrong examples, people modeling wrong behavior? Sometimes they use these students to perpetrate some of their evil acts. So when your student becomes your mentee in disguise, why are you now complaining about him becoming a full-blown adult?
Well, that's the reality, but I don't fully agree that they don't have that they can't check these things. They can.
I didn't
I
say they
believe.
can't check it. I said that that statement of saying that why would somebody go into an army varsity and try that thing,
Yeah,
in even in ranked institutions across the world, you have bad eggs. In the FBI, you have bad eggs. CIA, you have bad eggs. In the police department, you have bad eggs. And how does that happen? It's a cartel, it's a racket, it's a cult. So we need to assess them by the way it is. Anywhere you gather, there will be, even in government, there will be people who will test boundaries. There'll be people who will get tempted. There'll be people who will be corrupted. So talking about cultism as a strange subject matter in an army verse. An army verse doesn't make it specially exclusive to that. In fact, by account of history, you will find out that that's the breeding ground with facts and figures.
Okay. I guess that's all we have this morning on the headlines.
They still have one more.
Okay, private schools in Rwanda closed down as public schools become more attractive to parents. Okay, yeah, that's why Sarah, you're back. I hope this time you're back with us fully. Oh,
Well, anyways, if you're not saying anything on that headline, the point we're trying to make is for the headline in Rwanda, this has come up before, and I think it's just the way to look
Can you
at
hear me?
direction. Can you? Okay, yes, we can hear you. All right. So,
Can you hear me?
yes, we can.
Can I be heard?
Okay.
yes, I
All
can
right.
hear you.
Hey, can I be heard?
Yes, we can. We can. We can. We
Can
can
you hear
hear
me?
you. We can hear you. All right. So, just to buttress the point, schools, especially private schools, this headline has been something um, that's come out before, and the goal of or the essence behind assessing or analyzing this headline is that an evolution is taking place with which what we call good, or better still, what we call great, is being re-examined or is being re-evaluated. And the principle of less is more comes into application in this headline, where you find out that a lot of people are not looking at essential outcomes within the learning experience. And the way they've raised the standards of public schools in Rwanda based on an agenda has now made it more attractive. So the question is, why would why would parents prefer public schools, as it were, to private schools? Um, I think that the word attractive must be brought into focus, because at the end of the day, what would attract the customer in the end is really what drives anybody to patronize anyone. And so it's possible that there's attraction in terms of cost benefit analysis, what it costs you to put your child in a public school and what it will cost you to put your child in a private school, vis-a-vis the benefits of such cost. Some of these things actually are the things that are costing people. So, and then when you look at the standards, the quality available as well. So I think this is a food for thought for us to all stakeholders involved, for us to look at it as a reality that we need to explore, right? And once we're able to do that, we begin to see education for how it should be, and then of course schools will take the toll as well. Right. So before we move into the conversation of the day, we have just a quick announcement, a video announcement, and then I'll hand over back to you, Finn. All right, welcome back. We just wanted to share with you information about the special needs summer camp, the special needs educator summer camp. This is the third in its role, I believe, and it's been always a great time for educators to gather every summer. And this time around, it will not be an exception. And I'd like to encourage as many people who are out there to be a part of the summer camp. And the Special Needs Summer Camp is powered by Cadet Academy and supported by Nestle Learning. And this is going to be a virtual summer camp for policymakers, parents, teachers, caregivers, and other professionals. The conference is going to be taking place from the 18th of August to the 20th of August this year, 2021. And it starts daily from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And I'd like to stress that I think today or tomorrow, if I believe, or is it Friday? I'm trying to remember, is the deadline for the early bird discount. And I know that a lot of people might want to leverage on that. So they get to register on time. You can get more details from their website, and you could also reach out to them on social media at CACADEMY and NG on Instagram, and then of course, which is Academy, C or C Academy on Instagram, and then of course www.cadetacademy.ng.school.ng. So you are able to follow up. The early bird discount is stopping today. That's at 7,000 naira or $15 you could register, and then regular is going to also take place get cut off on 11th. So please try to be a part of this. Gives you opportunity to learn from several experts and leaders in the special needs and or special and inclusive education space. And then you get opportunity to gain practical insights and actionable strategies for solution-focused tools for both the children and the youth with special needs. There's a lot you can learn. I'll try to post out the website so that people can get more details, and from there you can also get them to register. So right now the website is there. It's on the screen: www.cacademy.sch.ng GLESC 2021. Thank you very much. And over to you, Fane. Topic for the day.
Our topic for today is which is the greatest. And when we talk about greatest, it means there is a greater and there is a great. So we are making comparison and setting priorities and making decisions and trying to make the best of the decisions that or the possible choices that we have before us. And life is full of choices. Life is full of at different points in time we have to make choices. Even from when we wake up, you make a choice to either get out of bed or to keep sleeping. And at that point you're asking, well, maybe have I made the best decision this morning to get out of bed, or would it have been better for me to have a few more hours or minutes of sleep? And so this morning we are talking decision making, prioritizing, and making the best, taking, making the best quality decisions as much as possible, both for us as individuals and as organizations, especially as education institutions. How do we know that the decision we are making is the best? at that time, at that moment in time. Oh, welcome back, Olatunde Adebayo. We have missed you on the side. Welcome back. Okay, I'm just going through, excuse me, going through his comments, and yeah, well, part of the decisions, that's one decision that needs to be taken. He's saying that the reality is our government in Nigeria is not thinking education and are not ready yet. That is a decision. Well, let's see. Let's delve into our own world of decision making. So, well, right now there are two of us, and we will take this opinion uh, a poll between both of us. What really makes for good? At what point can one be said to have made a good decision? What qualifies a decision, or what qualifies a choice as good? So, I'll ask you that.
When you say what qualifies a choice as good, trying to understand the question, but basically, outcomes actually are the validations of choices. And because a lot of times, what people may not see on the surface, it gets validated via the outcome. So, for example, um, if someone decides to change their diet, on the surface, it might look like the person is not feeding well, or the person probably is not enjoying the best of meals. But on the long run, the person gets to be fit, the person gets to lose weight or gets to stay in shape, and then you are able to qualify that decision as a good decision. In some cases, you take a choice or you make a choice about not being a part of something or about not living your life in a particular way. And for that moment, it looks like that choice to you is a bad choice. That why would you, do stuff, especially when it comes to delayed gratification. But you see, sometimes at the end of the day, what validates a choice as good most times is the outcome. So that's why I believe people say the end most times eventually justifies the means. The means in this situation being the choice. And so for individuals, for organizations, for business people, for educators, for professionals, I think what will make your choice good most times starts with the outcome. There are other factors, but I think most times we should look at the outcome. I think another thing is that when we want to judge or when we want to assess the quality of a choice or making sure a choice is good, I normally say that you need to place that choice before a jury. And that jury is made up of different people. I'm sure you're familiar with the jury system where you have people who are able to take decisions on a matter and to judge whether this particular case is worthy of acquittance and all that. So I think that number one, when we look at the moral implication of that choice, it also reemphasizes the quality of the choice as good or bad. When we look at the natural implication of that choice, so there are many times that our choice fights nature, and I'm sure you, as an individual that loves nature, you will know that there are certain things that people will do. Think of people talking about climate change. That kind of choices that we have that is not nature friendly. It's not promoting the nature. And when I say nature, I'm not just saying not mother nature, but the nature of things. If it doesn't promote the nature of life, doesn't promote the nature of friendship, doesn't promote the nature of habitation, all those things affect the choices. So you have the outcome, you have the moral implication, you have the natural implication, then you have the functional implication. So there are times that our choice cannot be considered as good or could be considered as good based on what the function is. It was many years ago I discovered the terminology where we say tough love. So you hear people, and the first time I heard, I kind of had to think when you say tough love, how can love be tough? But then you've experienced sometimes where parents would deny a child of a request, not that they don't have the capacity to give the child that thing that the child is requesting for. But at that time, they needed to be stern, maybe to show the child that, look, that you need to wait for your turn, or you need to wait for things, or you need to learn how to deny yourself some things. So that sometimes can come as a tough situation for the person that is considering, but I thought you loved me. So that has to be functional, the functionality of that decision. If the decision is going to harm one, right, then I think that decision is not helping functionality, as it were. It's like saying that you want to plan to turn your hands into your legs. The hands will not function to carry the body's weight, and it means you would have to feel some pain or get into some health concerns. So pretty much, I would like to stop there. That can form the jury of you being able to assess if a choice is good. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That well was some foundation for us to build on. And I noted that while you were speaking, one of the things you said was subjecting the choice or the decision to a jury. There are times that we have to make decisions like on the spot, and there are many choices before you, and there really is no jury to subject it to. At that point, you have to go with what you just feel at the time is a good decision. What you feel at the time is right for the moment. Like there really is no time to think this through. A child's life might probably be in danger at the time, and there is no time to start making a decision to, oh, should we call the parents first, or what hospital would they prefer, which would they want their child to be, who should touch the child, who should. There really is no time to make that decision at that time. You just have to make a choice to either save this child or let that child or leave the child to die. So at those times when we have to make decisions on under pressure or on the spot or at the push of a button, what are the things that help us make good choices in that time, or at least to a greater degree, decisions that we will not regret or that we hope we will not regret? Is this something that does it have to, do we build ourselves up over time to be able to make good decisions, or is it a skill that we have to learn about prioritizing when there really is no like when you do fire drills before there is a fire? So are there decision drills or prioritizing drills that we're supposed to do as people, as individuals, before we get to that point where the fire is raging, and then you really do not have the luxury of a jury or taking time out to think through what you would want to do?
All right. I think that when I was trying to explain the jury thing, the jury is not necessarily people. It's in your head. It's a navigation where you decide that, look, what is most important. Even in the state where you have like split seconds, nanoseconds to take decisions. I think the quality of our decisions would also be tied to our habits and practice before the time of emergency. So our routine in being critical about things. And to address the question you asked, I think lateral thinking comes into place when you are faced with like an urgent move to take a decision. You are not thinking just in a linear way, because when you think linear, there are many times that the blind spots you have will be much more. And because you are looking, I remember I said that one of the things that would justify your decision is the overall outcome. We've heard in the medical field where a doctor will say, we had to save the life of the mother and we had to take a decision. We understand. You see, so that in itself, it's just showing. But then I think one of the things that people must learn how to leverage on urgent decision is what I call the power of the pause. PAUSE. You must understand that no matter the pressure, no matter the, sometimes just look for a second or two to pause. And in some cases, if the time permits or if the situation allows, you can extend what we call the pause. The pause is a principle where you sometimes step out of the situation so that you can think on the situation. So in some cases, you just have, I've seen people practice this thing. Of course, those who do a lot of meditation or yoga and the likes, they understand this principle. Some people call it the breathing technique to take out stress. So that once the stressor is outside, you are able to think better. In some cases, you have just only a second to pause. And that I've seen some people close their eyes and then open their eyes. And then it's almost like get yourself into a place of consciousness where you are not so much beclouded by the situation. So sometimes some people do what mannerism, they do like this and they rub the two fingers, that's the thumb, and then they just rub themselves for a second or two just to get a grip. Some people just get a grip. Some people scream. Some people take a step away from the environment. Think about it like we're on a laptop and you're feeling tensed and you're feeling that you need to take a decision. Sometimes you might just need to sit back away from the laptop or swing if you have a swivel chair, or just take a walk or go to the balcony. In negotiation, they call it take a balcony, walk to the balcony. You go to the balcony and just have a moment if you can. So I think in taking great decisions or taking choices like that or making choices like that, um, you just need to trust your gut, follow your inner compass, and ensure that you take a pause. If you try that, there is a likelihood that you prefer the decisions that you have made, apart from just being pressured by the moment.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So one thing that I'm picking out of this is it's practice makes perfect. So if we have over time have developed the muscle to make right decisions or to be able to think through the options we have and calmly in our heads, it doesn't have to be like the illustration of the duck on the water. It looks like it's sailing very calmly and slowly on the water, but right under it, the feet are waddling really, really strongly and doing a lot of work to keep that calm that we're seeing. So it may have to be calm. You don't have to be dramatic about it, but calm on the surface. But then in your processing of different options, you are developing the muscle to quickly make elimination, to think about the end from the beginning. I mean, I was talking with somebody about what was okay, yeah, it was something that looks very mundane, but immediately I thought about the end of it. I said, "Look, guy, you don't want to go to jail for doing this." And he said, jail Bawo. And by the time we broke it down, yes, the end of it is likely going to be a jail sentence. So on the surface, it looks nothing like, oh, I'm just hanging out with somebody or I'm just driving past somewhere. At the end of it, it could really be something much more serious than that. So when we develop that muscle and we're able to call together our own inner jury to say, look, what do we need to do? What's will be the best step to take in this situation, then we are likely going to be able to make better choices when we are under pressure and it looks like all thinking at that point is out and is suspended. Okay, one thing I would also like for us to consider is what are the things that make up the decision making for people or for institutions. Organizations who write their vision, their mission, their objectives, and all of that, and you'll likely see that upon at the reception when you get in, so they know what they are, what you know who they are, and what they're about. Human individuals also have personal values, systems, and all of that. Our value systems really the base or the springboard or the foundation for the decisions that we make in life? Or are there environmental factors or intellectual factors or factors that come from experience? I have seen this happen before, and so if I happen to be in a situation like this is most likely what I'm going to respond with. So what really is at the base of our decision making? Is it about is it about value system, or are there some other factors that are responsible for the decisions we make?
I'm going to, for the purpose of the public and the subject matter we're treating, I'm going to do something a bit not popular. And the truth of the matter is, our values does not come first. We've been trained and taught that, but to be honest, our values does not come first. And I'll explain why. I think the most important thing that comes first, or best, well, I don't, maybe I shouldn't use the word important, but what comes first in terms of our drive or in terms of our behaviors are emotions. I've come to realize that emotions are stronger than knowledge, right? Even though knowledge is important, you find out that sometimes we do things and we are driven to do things that even though we know by knowledge base, it's not necessarily the best situation or the best case possible for us, but we do it regardless. Why? Because there is a stronger pull with emotion than knowledge, right? Even though knowledge is very important. In fact, I would say knowledge is more important than emotions. You know, when they say love is blind, why do you think people say love is blind? I think it's because there's an emotional pull in love. So sometimes you might love something that you should hate. By knowledge, you should hate it, but by emotions, it's appealing. And so your emotions actually interpret. In fact, sometimes we hear people say that emotions drive behavior. Sometimes you hear people even reinforce by saying emotions governs. They don't just say drives, governs behavior. So if your values does not get into a place deep seated within your emotions, it will be nice to have. They will be celebrated philosophical statements. Take, for example, we hear people say integrity is our value. We love, but listen, if it is not deep seated in the emotions of the people, there will be time when people will tell you that they will explain it. There's always a way to explain something. In this situation, uh, integrity is not defined in this way. Sometimes in life, people just start coming up. Why? Because deep rooted. And that's why you find out that next to emotions is what we call convictions. Those two steps, they are like right leg and left leg. What you are emotional about, you get convinced about. And I've seen you get to share and express some of the things you're convinced about, regardless of the knowledge being brought to you, whether it's a superior argument, a superior knowledge, but because deep seated in your emotions, you are rock solid on this matter, that's it. In fact, it is easier to place belief on something you are emotionally invested in than something that you just have head knowledge of. So it's like if somebody told you that, Fee, do you know that drinking hot tea in the morning will make you a millionaire? If you are not like Mr. Itayo, that tea is synonymous to oxygen, you would likely must we all be millionaires? You probably might say it must we all be millionaires. You might take you a pinch of salt because it's not deep rooted in your emotions. And so sometimes the real value if I'm correct, if I'm approved, or how do you say that? If it's acceptable for me to say, the real value, number one value, is our emotions. Then the values, I remember I put the S. Then the values, that's the philosophy that we enshrine our emotions into. So to this end, I believe that I value every human life. Why? Because emotionally I'm invested in the life of a person. Have you not noticed that those who probably have had an hospital experience tend to not just sympathize with people that have health challenge, they also empathize. The overall public sympathizes, oh, so sorry, you're going through stuff. But the one that has been through something near that experience doesn't sympathize. The person empathizes, goes beyond, oh, so sorry, wish you well. The person moves into the situation because they are emotionally invested. That's the real value. The value begets other values, which are philosophical, that you now say, to this end, this is what guides our behavior as an individual, as a group, as an association, and as an organization. And once people understand that, and that's why I really respect those who train and teach on emotional intelligence. And I respect them for the purpose of the fact that they've been able to identify that we must learn how to be intelligent with our behaviors. And how do we do that? By getting to be intelligent with our emotions. You know, I have a friend, I'm sure you know her, they call her emotions doctor. And you hear her say a lot of things about emotional intelligence. Even Olushola Olumide is a perfect person to be able to talk on emotional intelligence. And you see the way they say that, look, most of our education has been nurturing us with our head knowledge. The IQ has been nurtured. You understand? We've been raised on the mental side of things. We've been raised on an academic side of things, but not so much of it has been on the emotional side of it. You know, so I think that that will help. I hope I'm in place. How do I put it? I hope I've said something that makes sense. I know that probably I've broken some or shattered some tables, but I think really the statement comes after the emotions.
Thank you. That's very unpopular, and that's something that, well, many of us do, but will not want to admit that we do it because we consider that when people make decisions based on emotions, that they're weak or that they're not deep, or that's usually the way we look at it. Everybody wants to say, "Oh, I'm very logical. I'm more logical than emotional. I'm more," but we realize that when we dig deep, the emotions that we think about um, uh, when we say, "Oh, I'm more logical than emotions," we're thinking about the mushy emotions, like, "Oh, because somebody had poppy eyes, you gave in. Oh, because she talked in a particular tone of voice, I gave in." No, those are not. The emotions have to do with everything, both what we consider positive and what we consider negative emotions. So if you're making a decision out of anger, if you're making a decision out of annoyance, if you're making a decision out of frustration, it is still your emotions that are in place there and that are in charge. And we need to be able to understand this, identify it, and maybe then we now move to working on our emotions if we realize that the basis for most of the decisions we make are emotional. So how do I now handle my emotions? And then I can choose to be angry. I can actually choose to be angry without anything. It's my choice to stay angry and say no.
And the context can also be worth the anger, because a lot of times people think that emotional intelligence means that you don't frown, you don't do this, you don't do that. No, the context, that's why we call it intelligence, ability to apply the disposition required for the situation. Especially remember, you're not just doing stuff. Your goal is to achieve certain objectives. You know, I shared a story once. I went to a particular state in Nigeria, and I was running a bank training with some of my colleagues. And guess what we're talking on? Emotional intelligence. Now, when we ended that training, we traveled back to the state we went to was Anambra State. And so we were going back to Lagos. So we had to go through Enugu. The flight was from Enugu. So we drove down to Enugu early in the morning. And then we wanted to board a flight down to Lagos. And they didn't allow us board. We were trying to ask why. They never said anything until almost an hour later. They said, we missed our flight. I said, I don't understand why we're in the airport. Did we missed our flight? Can you explain? They said, no, the flight took off 2 hours earlier than the scheduled time. So the flight was meant to be 10 a.m. They said the flight took off 8 a.m. I said, but that's not our fault, number one. And then they didn't notify us. They said they notified people on Thursday. This was Monday. Guess what? We traveled into the state on Thursday. So how would you notify people about? So it didn't sound right. So we're still, we're wearing suits, we're talking like trainers and all that. They were just ignoring us. Then we went to the other airline that, okay, can you guys, do you have another flight? They said yes. So we talked to them and said, okay, can you just put us on another flight since it's not our fault? They said no, that we bought the ticket online. So it will take, is it 21 days to apply, to process. We said that we're not based in this location. And we were about 3 or 4. All of the things we were saying fell on deaf ears. And then we had to be emotionally intelligent. Now, what I'm about to say, yes, I know it's on record. But then I told them, I said, you see, I went to the guy, I said, if all I know is this, whether a flight left 8 a.m. or not, we came in good time. We arrived at the airport 8:30 for a 10 a.m. flight, 10 or 11 a.m. flight. And we are still within the rules. We didn't get notified by text. We didn't get notified by mail. So it's not our problem. You are the service provider. So you need to make a case for us to leave this location. We all have appointments and we have to keep this appointment. Apart from the fact that if we have to stay in Enugu till Wednesday, which is their next flight, who is going to take up the bill? It's not in the plan. You know all those things. The guy said, if I say anything, you'll get me arrested. I said, hey, I want to be arrested. In fact, that's the thing I want. So I brought out my phone and I started recording. And the guy went towards me. He wanted to take off my phone. I said, you don't have a right to take my phone. He said, I shouldn't shout on him. I said, I've not started shouting. He said, you want to hear shouting? Okay, I will shout. So I now threw my voice to make sure everybody heard. I said, you have no right to touch my phone. This is a public place. I can use my phone whatsoever. He went around, tried to look for a policeman to come and meet me. He couldn't get anybody. But at the end of the day, we got a flight. They put us on to Abuja to now route us down to Lagos. Can you imagine? But when we got to Abuja, we're laughing. And, one of my colleagues, I was telling him that, well, what if someone saw us from the training? He would say, see facilitator, they are dragging, And I said, it's true. We just thought on emotional intelligence. But then he said, no, number one, if we didn't do that, we won't get that slot to go to Abuja to leave that state and get to Lagos. Number two, he said, we are not the service provider. We are the customers. We were denied our right. We had to fight for our right. Number three, he said, can you see we are laughing? We are not toxic as a result of that response. If you were toxic, say, for example, they pissed you off, and then after they even resolved it, you're still frowning, you can't laugh, you're just all worked up, your day is messed up, then something has gone wrong. Do you understand? You don't lose yourself while you fight for yourself. You don't lose yourself while you fight for your right. The moment you lose yourself in the process, you've lost it all. And that's what it really means to be emotionally intelligent, right? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and that was just a good way for us to wrap up on making decisions and prioritizing this morning. And when you think about the big picture, and you think about, yeah, we talk about us protecting our mental health. Think about your mental health also in decisions you're making. Is this something that would affect you? You continue to think about it and regret, oh, I should have done this, or I should not have said this, or I should have said this, I should have acted this way, or think about it. many times you really do not, except in some cases, but many times we do not have the luxury of stretching out the thought process or stretching out the decision making process, and subjecting it to a lot of rigorous processes. But eventually, as we have said, put yourself under a process where you are able to master your own reactions and your own actions and your responses to stimuli and to events as they come on. Yeah, thank you, Olushola Lumide, emotional intelligence doctor. He says emotional intelligence does not mean you should be trampled upon. Absolutely. And at this point, we would like to say thank you to everyone who has joined us this morning. Thank you for being there, being a part of our show. We are glad that you were with us today. Thank you also, Mr. Itayo. Thank you, Waithera, that was here earlier. You have to find a way of sending some special gifts to her internet connection so that we can have her. We can have her without interruptions. And on this note, would like to say that for everyone who is watching this or who will watch the replay, have a great day. As you go through your day and as you come across decisions that you have to make, remember also to keep it lighthearted. Life is not that difficult, so think about keep it fun, laugh a lot. It's one of the things we said yesterday. Laugh a lot and watch out for yourself. And as we leave this morning, we will be leaving you with our regular sign off line. So let's see who says it better between the two of us. Bets on me. Let's let's round off.
Originality, originator.
Let's not put that to the test. Let's not put it to
Anyway,
the test.
before you try your mini contest, let's just remind everyone about the special needs summer camp. The summer camp for special educators powered by Cadet Academy from our very own Lola Neke, all the way from Abuja. It's a global virtual summer camp, and the time has been designed to be flexible for everyone. So it's in the afternoon. You could get done with all the things you need to do. And I'm telling you, it's going to be a great time. It's going to be a great time of learning, sharing, and growing. So be a part of it. Watch the replay, see the adverts, visit their website, and please do all you can to be a part of this. The website is www.cacademy, that's Academy or cacademy.school, which is .sch.ng/GLESC 2021. And you will get a lot of instructions and information. But take advantage of the deadline for the early bird today. So if you're an educator watching and if you're an educator listening, tell someone to tell someone that Mr. Rotimi Eitayo and the Good Morning Education Show, and everyone fully endorses this program and really wants you to be a part of this. Whether you're an aspiring special needs educator, or you're an educator yourself, or you're an emerging, or you're an established, go there, learn more so that you can become more. Thank you very much. Fini, over to you.
Okay, so we're rounding off now. And do we need a count? No, we don't. Let's just wish.
Is it not you do your own, I'll do my own, and then we'll see who wins?
Oh, okay. Is it that? No problem.
I thought that's what you're saying.
Who goes first? I would go first.
So you don't read the list.
Okay. You go first then.
You're the one that will go first.
It's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all over Nigeria, all over Africa, and to the entire world, this is Rotimi Eitayo saying, it's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. Check that out. Peace out. Oh, say, well of blessing.
Have a great day.
Ibadan loses, Lagos wins. OAU loses. Bye.